Okay, super. So let's start now. We said 5 minutes, so let's give it a start. So first of all, welcome everyone. We are very happy to have you here. Thank you so much for your interest, for your support, and for being here in general. So let me introduce you to our panel, The South in the North. How is it like to be from the global South in Europe? This aims to be a discussion platform around the multi-layered violence that people from the global South face in Europe. So let's briefly give some context of who we are. So the host organization is the Hope Foundation, where I am working currently. So the Hope Foundation is originally a non-profit organization that was born in Cameroon, but now also has a place in Berlin. So this is an organization that is based in Cameroon and in Germany. We have projects in both countries. And one of the projects to which this panel is being part of is called the Bridging Cultures. So the Bridging Cultures is one project that aims to tackle down stereotypes of different nationalities and identities, especially coming from the global South in Germany. So to tackle down all those stereotypical views that locals have on us, and that's many times and eventually turn into racism, xenophobia, sexism, and all of these interconnected. And this takes form in different workshops that we do in high schools in Berlin, where we connect the sustainable development goals, our countries, and our regions where we come from, because the trainers for these workshops come from the global South, and we teach the students and have conversations around these topics. They're very, very nice and interesting. Candela, for example, I will introduce her briefly, but she is or was recently also part of this program, the Bridging Cultures Trainship. So you can see more of our projects in the social media, in Instagram and Facebook. And this project specifically is funded by the Senate Department for Economics, Energy and Public Enterprises and Engagement Global, with funds of the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development from Germany. The founder of our organization is Gerald Bobka from Cameroon. So he was born there, but he moved to Germany years ago, and then he created also the quarters of Hope Foundation in Berlin when he came and he moved here. And our partner organization is Multicultural Sweden. Thank you so much for your support and for agreeing to partner with us. So Multicultural is an organization that promotes diversity in many layers, gender diversity, cultural diversity mostly. And we also have different projects, most of them in Colombia, but also some of them in Sweden. I am also part of Multicultural as a project leader. But today we have Lovisa. She is the representative for Multicultural today. So thank you so much, Lovisa, for being here. She's going to help us throughout the panel by checking the chat. So I would like you to know from now that you can write down your questions while the panel is ongoing through the chat, and Lovisa will always keep an eye on that. Thank you for that. So, yeah, but before starting officially, I want to introduce myself. I am the moderator for this panel. My name is Alejandra. I am from Colombia. And as I told you, I am the current trainer for the Bridging Cultures program here in Berlin. I'm also a project leader in Multicultural Sweden. I am an intersectional feminist, a critical and post-colonial thinker, and a human rights defender. And I am telling you this because I think it's important to know where are we standing from to do this kind of activities and this panel specifically, so that we have like a common ground for this conversation, and we cannot acknowledge those features. I would like you, the audience, to write down your names and where you come from in the chat, so that we have like an overview of who are here, who are supporting us today. So thank you so much for that. And finally, in this introduction part, let me tell you the agenda for today. So first, we're going to start with a brief background that I'm going to give about what is the Global South, why are we talking about it, why in Europe, and what is multi-layered violence. And then we're going to have two blocks of conversation. The first block is going to be our three panelists, who I will introduce briefly, and they will be sharing their personal experiences migrating or trying to migrate to Europe. And then the second block of this is going to be a reflection of how we can change this violence that they and people from the Global South in general experience in Europe, and why it's important to talk about these topics. And at the end, you as the audience can bring up some questions that will be shared with the panelists, and they can discuss around it. As I said, you don't need to wait until the end for bringing up the questions. You can do it throughout the panel. Lovisa will gather them and raise them up. So let's start with this short background and then with our panelists. So I would like to start my background with this. Okay, so 2 or 3 weeks ago, we carried out an event within the Bridging Cultures program called Spoons for Change. So the overall idea behind this was to gather with local people from Berlin, from not necessarily from Germany, but from other contexts, so that we can cook all together Colombian food. People have to register for this event, and one of the people that received the invitation for the cooking event wrote to us this email: "It's illegal to cook cocaine in Germany." So why am I starting with this? Because it is controversial. It has, I am guessing it started as a joke with big quotes. We will be talking about it. But this is exactly the type of violence we want to talk about today during this panel. Not necessarily violence that you can see, but violence that is always behind and that is always supporting the subsequent types of violence. So what about this of the South in the North? When we refer to the South here, we are indeed talking about the Global South. And this term and concept of Global South has its roots in this division of the world, basically, of after the post-war era, and with these globalization movements starting, of the first world and the third world, or the developed countries and the developing countries. Nowadays, in the contemporary studies and in the contemporary world, we know it as the Global South and the Global North. But who are we referring to when we talk about the Global South? Basically, to all those countries that are not aligned with the mainstream speech of development. Who created that speech of development? The Global North, or the First World, meaning mostly Europe and the United States. As you're gonna see also throughout the panel, this has a strong connection to colonization. So the regions you find nowadays in the Global South, Latin America, Asia, Africa, not to disregard other Souths that exist, of course, but this is the one we're talking about today. So how these have strongly strong colonial history, especially connected to Europe and to the United States. So this is the context that is important for you to know, but I don't want to perpetuate the idea of the Global South as just the marginalized or the victims, but also I want to bring us up the Global South as resistance, because where there is power, there is always resistance, and there is always alternatives to change that power systems. And that's what we are aiming to do, for example, with these discussion panels, not to reproduce those divisions and not to create wider gaps, but to actually create alternatives and conversations around these topics so that we can bring us together in a different way. So now I think it's very important to also talk of the different types of migration. So we were saying, okay, how is it like to be from the global south in Europe? But that's a very wide thing to say, right? Because there's many different types of migrants. There is economic migrants that come to Europe from the global south seeking for a job, or because they want to study, for example, or they just want to live here. But there is also the asylum seekers, there is also the refugees. So it's very important to bear this in mind, because we're not trying here to make us all one same group of people, but we all have different intersectionalities and identities that put us into different levels in Europe and make those violences more profound or less. So these are just some article headlines that I gathered from the internet, very recent ones, of how racism and xenophobia are a real thing in Europe, contrary to what many people say. Europe is many times showed as the place to be, as the dream, as the paradise. But what is actually happening to the people migrating here, seeking for that European dream? What are they encountering? So let's see, for example, these ones here. Racism is surging in Germany. Finland is the so-called happiest country on earth, but not for everyone. Or the COVID crisis and how this perpetuated racism against Asians. Asians being told, okay, or when the viruses started, for example, Asians being saw in the street, and then they were said, oh no, you're Asian, you're gonna give me the coronavirus, etc., happening until today. Or the serious crisis that is happening between Poland and Belarus. All of these are just some little cases that we can see every day in Europe and that are happening and that are a reality, and we need to talk about it. This is not just headlines, this is not just articles, these are real life experiences. And today you're gonna get to hear them, because the three of our panelists that are here have been through many different things. I myself have been through them as well. That's also one of the motivations behind this panel. But it's not just about me, you know, it's a collective concern that we have when talking with my friends and with the people from the global south. So when we refer to different types of violence, to the multi-layered violence, we are referring to three types specifically. So not just the direct one, the one you can see, for example, the physical violence, when someone beats someone, or when there is sexual harassment, or when there is rape. That's like the direct type of violence. But today we want also to specifically deepen into the cultural and structural types of violence, which are basically those in the bottom of the iceberg. That's why you see the picture of the iceberg to the right, that sometimes are not so seen, but those are actually the ones that are enabling that direct violence. So let's call it institutional violence, the cultural violence, and all of these structures behind and foundations that enable violence itself. So without further ado, let me introduce my panelists, our panelists. So we are very happy to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting. So let's start with Candela. Let me introduce her, just a minute. So Candela, she, her, born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, political science graduate, Universidad de Buenos Aires. She was a Bridging Cultures trainer in the Hope Foundation recently, with special emphasis in the gender equality and the end of poverty sustainable development goals. She is a feminist, an activist, and a critical thinker. She has lived in Berlin for 2 years and a half. She is currently living here, and she is into dulce de leche and poppies. Now, let's go with Tia Shun Tsai, to whom I would refer throughout the panel as Albert, because we know each other and that's how I call him. So I will do that, because otherwise I would get so confused, but I want you to know his native name, so please bear it in mind. So Albert, him, he was born in Taipei, Taiwan, and that's where he is right now. Thank you so much for agreeing because it's very late there. He has a bachelor degree in international relationships, former scholarship holder of Erasmus Mundus joint master's degree. Albert is a person who loves to experience different cultures and learn new languages. He is also interested in cooking and outdoor sports. He currently lives in Taipei, as I said. And finally, Cynthia Mungo Shea from Cameroon. She, her, born in Knambe, Cameroon. She is a master's student at the Humboldt University in Berlin, studying agricultural economics. She is a member of Junior Chamber International Berlin, assistant representative of the Weltwärtsprogramm, and the vice president of Potsdam African Community. She is an active citizen who believes that service to humanity is the best work for life. She currently lives in Berlin. So thank you all so much for being here. And let me start with this panel. So first of all, I would like to ask Candela, can you tell us about your experience migrating to Germany? Why did you decide to come here in the first place?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, both of you, for having us to Hope Foundation and Multicultural. Really happy for this proposal. And thank you to everyone that's here, Dario, Yvonne, people from Ghana, from Uganda, Kenya, Colombia. That's super, super nice to know that this resonated somehow into other people's experiences and lives. So I'm really happy. There's my best friend Debbie on the side. So we're here. We're all here. I'm going back to your question, and with no further ado, I decided to come to Germany 2.5 years ago because I liked German philosophy. Yeah. And I liked also German language, but now that I study it, I don't like it that much anymore. But yeah, to be honest, I always thought coming here and do a master's, pursue a master's in political sciences. There are a couple that I'm interested in, and that I'm actually able to be admitted at this point, not before, as you may know, and other people that migrated. It's not that easy, and I thought I was very positive when I came. I kind of thought that in a month I would have almost everything sorted out, and that did not happen until recently. So 2.5 years later, I can say that I'm kind of settling in, or settling to feel a bit more stable. But migrating, besides a lot of bureaucracy and institutional violence and different cultural backgrounds that everybody has, it's not such an easy ride. So, oh, my connection is unstable. Hopefully everybody can hear me still. So yeah, that's why I came 2.5 years ago, and yeah, it has not been easy. It's an opportunity opener, as I always say, migrating, but at the same time, it's a challenge. Yeah, challenger presenter. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. It still is up until today. I still miss everybody back at home, of course. The homesick, I'm guessing that it just disappears at some point, but it's not getting better. But yeah, it was towards looking into a brighter future and having, as you said, I am not displaced. I have not been displaced. I am not into an asylum situation or refugee things in Argentina aren't great. That's where I come from. I'm sorry if I didn't say that before. Politically and economically speaking, I didn't see that much of a future there. And my opportunities back then were pretty few. There were a few opportunities only for me. So I decided to migrate, and that's how I came here.
Thank you so much, Candy. And I would like to ask the same question to Cynthia. So how was your process migrating to Germany, and what motivated you in the first place for coming here?
Okay, thank you very much, Alejandra, and thank you everyone for being here this evening. Despite everything that is going on in the world, you chose to be here with us this evening to share our experiences and to also ask questions and so that we could learn from one another. So I look forward to your questions after this. First of all, why I decided to come to Germany is because I wanted to see the world from another perspective. And so that was in 2018. I had the opportunity to come to Germany to come and do a voluntary service program, but it was really not an easy ride. We started the application process in 2017. Then in 2018, we dropped our applications for the visas at the embassy, and we had to wait until August before we got the visas. So about 6 months after that. So it was really a hectic program. You have to go back and correct documents and give documents and call and ask and so on and so forth. And you're being told you have to wait, you have to wait, you have to wait. And we kept waiting and waiting. And Germany was the sending organization from Germany. They tried putting pressure, and we came for the program. At the end of the day, to cut the long story short, we came for the program, but we came a week later. And even though we are from the South, but you see that there is still some differences even with the people from the South, because the people in Cameroon had the same documents as the volunteers coming from Georgia, from Costa Rica, and from Georgia and Costa Rica. But then our own program took even longer, because it's believed that when we come here, we will not want to go back again for so many reasons that we all know. So after we got here for the program, so we were late. We missed the vital part of the program, which was the introductory phase of the program. And because it was also very much delayed, you have people who dropped out of the program. They were like, okay, our lives don't depend on going for a voluntary service. But because I knew why I wanted to travel, I held on. I remember someone once said that, well, you'll be the same person in 5 years, unless for the places you've gone to, the books you've read, and the people you've met. And I knew that many people, I would meet many people on this journey. I would visit new places that I've never been to, and I will equally be changed. Just traveling makes a whole lot of difference. And this to me was very vital. So I wanted to see the world from another perspective, and also to learn new things, and to understand why the differences in this different countries that we find ourselves. Like why do we have all these differences? Why the huge gap? And I'm still asking myself until this day, because I still haven't found the answers. I don't know how long I'm going to keep asking, but I'm happy I'm getting some answers. And hopefully maybe this evening I would also get some answers to some of the questions I've been asking myself.
Thank you so much. That sounds very interesting. And I think it's also super to start seeing the relation between the story of Candela and Cynthia, like coming from super different regions, Latin America and Africa, how things start to connect, how those dots are always there, that we could be from super different countries, but that's not isolated. And now let's go with Albert. So After months of preparing an application to the Erasmus Plus program, Albert successfully got a scholarship for a 2-year master's program in 4 different countries in Europe. This was this year. However, for a variety of institutional, bureaucratic, and migratory issues, he could not travel, and he lost his scholarship. Albert, can you please tell us the story yourself and what happened?
Okay, do you hear me clearly?
Yes, we do.
Okay, nice. So it's a long story, but I'll try to explain as clearly as possible. So as you might know from Alice's introduction, I'm come from Taiwan. In case someone does not know where it is, it's a place close to like Japan, China, and Philippines. Well, it has like a special relationship with China. It's not regarded as a state. So there are not so many like embassies for Taiwanese to apply for their visa when they're going to travel. And that's kind of the reason which leads to the chaos for my problem. So back in April, I got a scholarship. I was so happy to have the experience to, like study in different countries in Europe and like, how do you say, like learn new knowledge and explore new experiences. However, like in May, I discovered that there is a huge issue for me to apply for the visa for my first country, which is Portugal. As I mentioned before, there's no like Portuguese embassy in Taiwan, so I have to go to China. But during the Corona pandemic, everything is very difficult. I have to spend like 35 days in quarantine in total, back and forth, and like 3,000 euro for the quarantine hotel, and which is affordable for me. And I started searching for solutions with the embassies or like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I even talked to my university in Portugal and my host university of the program. And I suggest like several solutions, including if I could apply for visas from other countries, which is easier for me, or like if I could join online courses if I cannot travel to Europe. But after all the effort and like the times I spent, the energy I spent, all of my suggestions got rejected, unfortunately, due to the bureaucratic stuff. And there's seems like there's no way I could find a solution to send myself to Europe, like legally stay in Europe and safely stay in Europe. And well, time goes by and it becomes September and the semester starts. So I had no choice but to leave it alone, give up this scholarship and try to look for other opportunities. And that's basically my main experience.
Thank you so much, Albert. It's a very moving story. I remember the first time he told it to me, I was very upset. Maybe some of you are also experiencing the same feeling right now. Like, yeah, like such a big thing to get a scholarship to super unaffordable universities in case you can't, in case you get there, but you're not from Europe and you don't have the incomes. And then suddenly everything goes by and doesn't happen. So I'm very sorry to hear that. And thank you so much for opening up to us and for sharing your experience. And I would like to ask you right now the second question as well. And is, what were the impacts of this situation in your health? What happened after all of these collapsed and didn't happen?
Well, so like I think like like people are more like a pressure cooker. If you if you don't have a good way to release your stress, and like all the stress just comes inside your body, but there's no way out, and then you became mentally ill, and that is my case in the end. So like back in September, I realized I had some problems sleeping, or I cried all the time, like during the day or during the night, and I started to thought negatively. Uh, so I decided to prioritize my mental health first and go to see the like mental doctor and started taking medicine. Uh, to be honest, right now I'm still taking the medicine. If I don't take the medicine, I still have difficulty like sleeping, and I constantly feel the anxiety and depression during the days. But I think I'm moving on the like right track. Like you're improving day by day, and you started to think about that it is not like your fault uh, to cause the problem, because like during the pandemic, we don't have the power to control everything, and it happens, and then it happens. Like we have to accept the truth and started to look for the future. Yeah, that's my mental health issue. Yes.
Thank you, Albert. And I think it's like hearing your experience and also relating it to Candela's and to Cynthia's and my personal one. Sometimes it's very hard to find the boundary between saying, okay, I accept it, but it's unfair. Like it still is there and we still need to talk about it. So it's very hard sometimes to find the balance. And that's why I think it's super that you're sharing your experience, because that's somehow finding it in a way. And Kande, now regarding like these same topics we are talking about, how has the job seeking process been for you? What has been necessary for you to stay in Germany in terms of migratory and regulatory processes?
Yeah, well, first, I would like to thank Albert for being so brave and open and honest about such an important subject as is mental health. That's the very first thing that I would like to say, especially in a place like Germany, where the psychology was born and nobody seems to talk about it here. The system of mental health assistance is way worse than in Argentina, for example, that from the global south. So coming back and forth from differences and similitudes that I can find in between both countries, I would say that's a major thing. And that, of course, I had this same situation as Albert like 2 weeks ago. I got a visa rejected after planning it very thoroughly and thinking, okay, like I just gave my papers in and kind of just waited it for it to work, because I had all the requisites and everything was going right. And then I just got an answer saying like, nope, no, that's not going to happen. Like everything that you planned for the next 2 years, because I was applying also for a master's, it's not going to happen. And for this past 2 weeks, it has been like crazy intense. Thankfully, the amount of help and good people that I'm surrounded with, that I have met during these 2.5 years. If not, and besides, obviously, my family. Hi, Mom. Hi, Martu. Those are my family there. If it wasn't for them, for all the support that I have from friends and family, most definitely, it's mega overwhelming. It's super unstabilizing. Well, yeah, it destabilize you, whatever. It it plays with your mind, with your future, with your plans, with the idea that you had already in your mind. And I think that the only approach to it, besides being proactive, is to firstly take care of your health. Most definitely, not a visa, not a scholarship or a job is worth, for me at least, my health. So in all of these migratory processes, to go back a bit to your question, Ale, I think at least for me, the most important thing to have in context is your affects and the people that you like and the people that love you back and that can help you, whatever it is. Like Ale, for example, was reading my cover letters. I have friends from Germany that are, as we speak, working on my cover letter in German, because my German obviously is not that good. So like leveraging up from all of the amazing people that I got to meet, and like Cynthia say, which I completely agree on, traveling, besides opening your mind and reading new books and getting to nice places, also allows you to meet people that I would have never ever met before. And besides all the migratory hustle with the bureaucracy, that it's crazy, and of course it makes me very, very upset to be put in such a diminishing situation, because it plays also with your self-esteem a lot, and you think that you're not enough. And yeah, I just would like to say that people around you give you the strength, and you should find it also and nurture it inside of you. So besides all of the hassles and problems and challenges that migrational processes bring, I think it's the foremost or most important thing to have in mind is your resilience and your way of coming back after that. I think it speaks much more than the problem itself, by far, and how people approach it very differently. Yeah.
Thank you, Candy. I agree so much with the last thing you said, and that's something I would celebrate a lot about Latin Americans, because that's where I come from and what I know, but I'm sure that could also be the case from Asians and Africans, and is that resilience. In Colombia, we would say echados pa'lante, like people that really, like, they do their best even in adverse situations. Like they do their best, and you can see that in Germany or in Sweden, where I was last year. Like Colombians, Latins, they're going through so many hassles in terms of visas, but they keep on trying, they keep on finding alternatives of going here, there, contacting these people, etc. So that's something I also celebrate, and I treasure myself a lot. And there's something I would like to say to add to all of your experiences, guys, and is that for me personally, it's been very surprising that many Europeans, many friends actually, European friends, are very shocked about the visa stuff, because within the European Union, you don't need visas at all if you are from the European Union. So for them, sometimes they don't even understand what a visa is. So discussing these things with them, it's very interesting, because it's also showing them like, okay, this is a reality, might not be for you, but it is for some other people. And that's why I think these kind of conversations are very important as well, right? And now I would like to come back to you, Cynthia, and ask you, how is it like to be a Cameroonian woman in Germany, and what kind of violence do you face in the daily basis?
Yeah, again, being here in Germany, you're reminded every day that you're different. starting from the kids. It's true, they are innocent, they're just curious, they want to know. But then I never heard children in my country asking questions that would make you wonder, like, oh, have you never seen people like this before? And so it's something you're going out expecting that you're going to meet this or that. You know, somebody is going to either stare at you, or somebody is going to maybe give you a certain look because of the fact that you look different. And so for this reason, you're always conscious. You're conscious about whatever is taking place around you. And I have quite a lot of experiences, but thank God I don't have like a physical violence experience. So I have a lot of experiences. I will share just a couple of them because usually I get very emotional. So when I want to say some of the things, I just burst into tears. So I don't want us to do a pity party for me this evening, but to share the experiences and learn from one another. So one of the most shocking experience I had was when I came here in 2018. And I was trying to get a bus, and then this guy is running behind me and telling me, no, we're standing first. We're waiting for the green lights to come so we could cross the road. And he was like, hello. And I was like, hi. I was very nice. And I was even surprised that somebody is greeting me on the streets of Europe. And he goes like, oh, I want to marry you so that you can have papers and stay here. I was like, what? Excuse me. What did you say? And he's like, yes, I'm talking to you. I mean it. I want to get married to you so that you can have papers and stay here. So you don't have to bother about papers. And then we cross the road, get on the bus, and he gets on the bus with us. And I had to threaten him, I'm going to call the police because I'm not comfortable you following me around like this. And so when I highlighted, he highlighted as well. God, I had to take out my phone and pretend as if I was calling the police, and he was like, it's okay. And then he turned and went his way. But that for me was, it made it really challenging going out on my own. And since we were here in a group, we came as volunteers, we're 5 of us in our group. So most times when I want to go out, I'll be like, hey, Imelda, can you please come with me? Because I'm scared this could repeat itself again. And when I shared it with a couple of women from Africa, other countries in Africa, they were like, yeah, I've experienced that. And it was for me not just something that happened to me, but something that I should expect in my daily life, or that I should expect that could come again at any time. And another experience I had was I went for a bicycle tour, and while we were waiting by the roadside with my flatmates, it's when Corona started, and I was waiting. We're tired and wanted to get a drink, and then somebody just rides on his bicycle by us, and then he goes like, hey, go back home. And then he gives me the middle finger, and then he calls me the N-word. And my flat, I didn't even hear it. They were the ones who got it, and they were so mad, and they were like, no, what he said is so mean, we can't even repeat it. I was like, oh, what did he say? And they repeated it. And sometimes I'm even happy that before I could not understand German, because sometimes you get on the train and somebody is saying very mean words to you and you only hear the N-word. And so those times it really did not hurt, because I couldn't understand all what the person is saying. And so I would just walk, go my way, because I don't even understand what he's saying. And I got again on the train, and this guy, he goes like, hey, you, go back home. What are you doing here? You can't even live in the capital city. Why are you with your bicycle in the train? The bicycle is, and he just goes on and on and on and calls me the N-word. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, there are so many questions going on in my head. I'm like, why is he so frustrated? Why do you see someone who has not done anything to you and you just go on being mean to them and everything? And then everybody in the train got uncomfortable, and he kept talking, but I didn't respond. I understood everything he said. And yeah, that day there was a football match. It was Italy and Germany. I think it was England and Germany. Yes. And so at the end of the day, I just asked him, so which team would you be supporting this evening? So maybe he was talking all of this thinking I don't understand the language, but I was understanding everything he was saying. And we ended up on a good note, but it was not a good experience. I mean, it's just because I went out this day on a very, very high level of joy that I wouldn't accept that a stranger should get me demoralized or looking sad and everything like that. And these things keep going on and on and on and on. I remember my host mom saying, oh, I would buy you pepper spray, because I wasn't living in Berlin when I came for my voluntary service. I was living out of Berlin. I was in Neuruppin. It's about an hour, 30 minutes away from Berlin. And so she goes like, oh, I'm always so scared when you go to Berlin and you have to come back late in the evening, because, you know, these guys are drunk. They can do anything to you. First, you're a lady. Secondly, you look different. I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's so. And so she proposed like, oh, I should maybe get you a pepper spray just in case you get into a violent situation, then you can defend yourself. And this for me also, yeah, she meant it in a good way, but it made me know that I am always in harm's way when I'm in the train, especially when it's late. And I also worked in later on in service, where I used to go to work on during shifts, like work late hours. Sometimes we would work like on the New Year Eve. I was at the Adlon Hotel working until about 4 a.m. And then you're coming back. There are so many drunk people on the streets. And then, you know, because you're different, you just feel like, ooh, anything can happen to you at this point in time. I also met a family where, yeah, they wanted to explain to their child or to make me comfortable, but they go like, okay, our daughter is sleeping, Cynthia. We went to visit my host parents' cousins, and the daughter was sleeping, and they were like, okay, the daughter will be up, our daughter will be awake very soon, but we just wanted you to know that she's never met someone who looks like you before, so she might react differently, so just so you know, and then you give the baby some time to at least get used to you. And then the baby wakes up and they're like, hey, meet Cynthia. This is Cynthia. She's from Cameroon. It made me feel, I felt really terrible. I felt like I was like, the earth should just open up and swallow me, because I can't take this anymore. So yeah, these are some of the things you go through like every day from the people around you, and so on and so forth. And when I explained the situation from the train with my flatmate, Sabina, she's very funny. She bought me some earrings. It says, da rein, da raus. Also, you have it on both ears. So when somebody is being racist against you, then you don't bother yourself saying anything to them. You just show them the earrings, and they understand that, yeah, whatever they are saying it's not getting to you, but trust me, it does, especially when you come in situation with another person, or when someone is explaining their situation as well, and then you're just nodding and like, yes, I can relate to that. So yeah, those are just some of the things I would lightly say, because like I already said, I get really emotional and when I start talking about those things. So yes, that was a bit of it.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Also, thank you for opening up and for being honest and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, because as we said before starting the panel, this is a safe place for doing so. So thank you so much for that. We empathize with you, we embrace you, and I'm very sorry you've been through all of this, because no one should. I'm really sorry to hear that. And there's something I would like to highlight about what you've been talking about, and is that the kind of discrimination that people face in Europe or in general in the world doesn't come just from one part of your identity. So it intersects everything. So there is sexism, but there's also racism and xenophobia. Like, how everything comes together and makes the experience even harder and like getting into a hole sometimes. But thank you so much. I think it's a brave step what you did here, and to start talking about it is also stop normalizing it. And that's my question to Candela. Like, how do you think we can stop normalizing this violence towards people from the global south in Europe?
Well, firstly, as you said, thank you, Cynthia, also, like very, very heartfelt and really, really hardcore experiences. One thing that I would like to add on, if there's something to add on, because it's your experience and nobody else felt it like that, at least like you, is that I've had those similar situations before. The positive attitude towards it, Darinda House, seems like a great plan. But what got me really to understand that it's a system that my personal position on it or yours or like individually won't make a proper change. Of course, that changes the way that you feel about it, and it's super good. That's the first step, of course. But I could spot in Europe why, whilst I thought that it was a problem with Argentina only, for example, sexism. And then I came here thinking that this was going to be like an utopia where every girl and every woman has the same chances as other people, and every person would have the same chances as everybody. And then I could understand and I could see it more vividly that it's not a problem with us, not personally, not individually, but it's a system. So the answer would only be addressed and forged, I think, in the collective unity. So going a bit back to Ale's question, I do believe in the power of the collective and of changing things radically and seeing new perspectives. And I think that's the first step for them to see us and for them to realize how much of a privilege it is or not to be born in some place or other in this world. And yes, I do believe that in getting together and showing them that there is nothing to show, that actually there are more stuff that brings us together than they bring us apart. So trying to get that message out and to educate European-centric thinkers would be the first step. And getting together also, all of us, and gathering our experiences that gave us so much strength and so much pressure also, and so much anguish, because migrating also comes with a lot of anguish and a big depth of personal experiences. My call would be for that, for the showing up and not normalizing it and calling it off, because I see it sometimes here, especially in Berlin, that it's a really big city. And as you said, Cynthia, it's kind of dangerous for us girls to walk in the street, or when people are drunk, or whatever the reason, for them to act like, I could not even say, like they do. And I was trying to find an adjective, but it's not a very nice one. So in order to do so, I think that also sharing our experiences and trying to point out a bit the privilege, it's a really good work towards building a more peaceful and understanding and more empathic world, because people at the end of the day just really like to be with the people that they love and eat something that's nice and warm when it's cold and drink something that it's cold when it's warm. So I mean, we all have different aims and ambitions and career paths and so on, but I think that the core, the main or the most important thing is that we understand that everybody is a person worthy of respect, regardless of whatever condition, situation, context they have been born in. We don't choose that. We don't choose where we are born or how we look like. So from there, that moment on, from everything we can choose, I would say that I would fight for choosing to be on the fair side, on the justice side, on the empathy side, towards all of the living creatures and persons in the.
Thank you so much, Kande. That was a great reflection. And actually, she needs to disconnect soon because she has German class. But thank you so much for being here and for your reflections. That was super.
I'll say a bit more to hear Albert's also reflection. It's really important for me.
Great, thank you. Yes, and I would like to add up something to what you said. I have so many things to say, but I'm not a panelist, I'm just a moderator. But I just want to add up to Cande's reflection that it's also important for stop to normalize that violence, to be aware that it exists. And that's something that doesn't happen in Europe many times. Many Europeans, because they stand from the place of privilege, they don't even know their privilege. And sometimes it's not even their fault. But that's why it's really important to start also widening these conversations and talking about it, because it is a reality. And by calling it a reality, that means that it can also be changed. So thank you so much for that, Candy. And now let's go to Albert again. So Albert, what is the power behind telling your own story, and what is the message for the people that are listening to you?
Well, thank you, Ale. Well, from my point of view, I think that like from a personal perspective, I want to use this being a panelist as a way to heal myself, because I don't know, like my mental doctor always says, like if you are willing to speak out your experience, especially like something hurts you, it means like you are kind of it's in the healing process, and you're accepting that it happened and you should move forward. And that's the first part. And the second part is that I think in my case, it's more like a structural problem, like the bureaucracy problem, and plus the COVID makes everything more crazier. I'm an only individual and I cannot fight the system by myself. Therefore, I share my experience to all the audience, no matter where you are, no matter like if you're European, you're non-European, if you're just a student or an employee in a private company or a governmental official. Anyways, but I hope you can like discover what is happening to the people around the global south and make some change. Think about like what is actually happening around the world outside of Europe. And the most important stuff is if we united together, we could make some change to make the system or like the bureaucratic system in a better perspective, or to make it more efficient. to make it more tolerance for the people who have disadvantages, especially like people from the global south. And that is my perspective.
Thank you so much. You are all very inspiring. I feel very inspired by the three of you. And then Cynthia, let me come back to you by asking you, why is it important to discuss these topics and how should we mobilize change?
Yeah, so I think it's important to talk about these things because like Abed has mentioned, it helps you to heal. Sometimes you talk about it and just the fact that someone is listening just makes you feel relieved, because when we keep hiding all this pain or you keep it to yourself, then before you know it, you get into a depression. It's true, many of us from the global south, we believe that, or we don't need therapies, or we don't crack, and we keep these things to ourselves. So it's important when we talk about it, then it's going to also help in the healing process. And maybe you could also get recommendations from people who have been longer in the system than yourself, and then it helps you to go about them when next you meet such situations. And also someone said that an opportunity, that a story not shared or an experience not shared is a missed opportunity. So it's actually a missed opportunity if we don't have platforms like this where we come and talk about these things, and also sharing experiences or sharing what we go through just kinds of made these things more clear and more visible in the society. Because like Candela said before, many Europeans don't know the struggle of getting a visa. They don't know that when I have to change my visa here, I have to wake up by 3 a.m. and be there at the foreigners office and wait until the people come to their office at maybe 8 a.m. or so, and then you have to wait. I mean, sometimes you don't get the response immediately, but that is not the same case with someone who is a European. And when you share some of these experiences, then we learn from both parties, and we become better persons. Because I think through all of the experiences I have had, I think that I've become a better person. It's true, some part of me has become bitter, but then I think I've learned more from the experiences, and I've also learned more by sharing with other people. And just like a product where people, nowadays we are doing a lot of online buying. So before you buy something online, you're trying to do a review of this product. What are others saying about it? So sharing these experiences as well would help other people who are in the global south to understand that it's not all about merrymaking. It's not all about the beautiful pictures they always see on social medias, but these are some of the things that are under the the iceberg that they always see, where we're looking also happy, sending money back home, doing video calls and all whatnot, and looking also happy. But then there are a lot of realities that you face on the street, day-to-day life, that if they knew, then they would be better informed and take decisions that they are informed about. They'll take informed decisions and not just take decisions from what they have maybe seen on social media, what they have seen on social media on the TVs. I mean, I was really embarrassed the day I came to Berlin and realized there were no skyscrapers, because I thought Europe was all like New York with skyscrapers and all whatnot. But those are just the sights we see on their TV. And I was also very embarrassed at the pictures I saw about Africa, like hungry women and hungry children on the streets, and that is all what you see on the streets. And I always say that if I was not from Africa, that is the same picture I would have about Africa, that these are the only kind of people you see when you go to countries in Africa. And yes, so it's important that we talk about these things so that we are heard, so that we amplify them, and so that the people who are still in the global south would have informed decisions before making a move.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And also, just a little thing adding to yours, I think it's important to not to romanticize so much the global north as we many times do in the global south. There is a lot of migration, for example, from Colombia to the United States, with this American dream happening also a lot towards Europe. You can see it in many migratory waves. So that's important what you're mentioning, like to show all the sides of migrating, that there's really good things, but that there's also challenges that are not necessarily something you can control, but things you need to be aware when going there. So thank you so much for this amazing discussion. Thank you all for your ideas, your thoughts. Now I will give the opportunity to Lovisa to read some of the questions or comments so that we can close up with these final reflections.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's really, really interesting. Yvonne, I just want to, she hasn't asked the question, but Yvonne has wrote that she has really experienced the same situations as you, Cynthia, and she writes that you're not alone and she can feel your frustration here in Berlin. And Dario Amaya has asked, and he wrote this after Cynthia talked, so I will direct this question to Cynthia. And he is then saying thank you, and he asks, do you think living those experiences have made you put on a European performance, maybe trying to change your accent or choosing different clothes as a way to minimize the violence? Cynthia.
Thank you very much for the question, Dario. That's very interesting. I wish I could change different clothes and just look like the Europeans to avoid some of the violence, but I'm a star up there. I can't hide. So I love my Cameroon dressing. I really love especially the one from Bamenda, which is stitched with so many nice, beautiful colors. I love colorful dressing, so I can't do it the German way. It's boring and it's not me, and it would even make me even more depressed. But something I've done to be able to fit in the system is that I've learned the language, which of course I still am not perfect in it. So sometimes there is a very interesting discussion going on and I really cannot take part or really give my ideas because I'm limited by the language. So I have learned the language, but I can't speak like a German. The Cameroon side of me is too strong. And some of the things I do is that I withdraw sometimes if I have to go like to an all German gathering. When I think about some of the questions I would be asked for the night, I just like, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. So sometimes I withdraw. But about changing my accent, no. Changing my clothing, not yet, because I don't like dull colors. And that is what I see most people wearing around here. I like colorful. I like to be like, hey, I'm here, kind of dressing. So yes.
All right, thank you. Could I pass on the question to Candela as well? What, like, perhaps then, have you adapted in ways to mitigate the situation, your experiences?
No, and actually that's a very interesting question. Thank you very much, Dario, for asking it. Because I thought the same before coming here. I thought that maybe I should lose my accent. I can't. I should, of course, I buy clothes here now, but this is from my sister, actually. Thank you, Martu, that you're there. And I had one thing that was very, very a highlight in my history before coming here, that I was working with a guy in the Senate, in the Argentinian Senate. And when I told him that I had this crazy idea of coming here and doing a master's and so on, he was super supportive. And at some point I was telling him, well, I would like to do this and that. And he just sat down and said, like, Kande, let's have a coffee. I think that you may need to hear this. Okay. He said, like, you know what's gonna be your added value in Europe? And I was like, yeah, knowing English, learning German, philosophy. And he was like, no, your like your value as a Latin American, as an Argentinian, it's gonna be that you are Argentinian, and your value, it's gonna be that you're a woman and that you experience things differently. So you should never forget that. And if somebody else tells you the other way, just send them off, because just try to be you, and never change the way that you approach things. And even if you fail, it's not going to be a failure, because you're going to have experiences and you're going to go back home with a whole new perspective on life. So I was like Dario, as I'm saying, like kind of in that way, trying to think of how can I fit in? How would I not stood out negatively, actually, not how can I blend in? But then I realized, like, yes, and actually that's what I've been doing since I got here. I've taught English and Spanish to kids. Of course, like, I cannot teach French. I cannot teach African dialect. So maybe just specializing in what I came with, and trying to exploit that, exploit that. And to be also proud of it, because I don't like either dressing myself all black. I don't like techno music, and I live in Berlin, but it's in the diversity that people and sharing experiences and knowing other stories. I think that's the added value. I wouldn't change my accent, and I wouldn't change the way I used to wear. So yeah, that was a very good question.
Yeah, thank you for that question, and thank you, Candela and Cynthia. I will leave over to you, Alejandra.
Thank you so much. So let's read this last comment that Pascal wrote. Thank you all for sharing, really related to the emotion conveyed. I find it especially interesting with Cynthia's last anecdote, which suggests that people can be on both sides of misunderstanding. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your reflections, for your time, your interest. We are very happy to have you here on behalf of Hope Foundation and Multicultural. And you can do some more research on our projects if you're interested in our social media, as you saw at the beginning of the presentation. I can send you the slides and some other information to your emails so that you can like see what we discussed here in a more summarized way. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for your love. Thank you for making this a safe place, all of you, because I think it was, and that made it even more powerful. We need more spaces like this to talk about it, to make it positive, to transform it, to show different alternatives. That's what we need, and that's what we have been doing here today. So thanks a lot, and you're welcome to keep on participating in our activities, as you're gonna see we're constantly doing. So yes, that would be the end of our panel. Thank you all for your comments and reflections in the chat. So if you panelists want to say bye, the panelists.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so very much, everyone. And if there were some questions, or if somebody would like to gather some other time, I would be more than happy to do so. And for the people that it's in Berlin, like Cynthia, let's go have a coffee, have a chat, and have a great evening, everybody. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Yeah, So I think next, thank you very much, the organizers. Thank you all for taking out the time to be here. And I would love to connect with every one of you on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Yeah, I think that's just about it. And then I would love to connect as well with everyone who is in Berlin, because it's been Corona and we're all home. So please, let's meet up. Yeah, good night from my end.
And Albert?
Yes, thank you, Ale, and thank you, Lupisa, for holding this event. And I am so appreciate that all the audience are like participating. And I hope you guys have a good day, no matter it's day and night, and you learned something from this panel. And please stay safe. And if you have any questions about like my story, about further details, feel free to contact me. And I'm not sure if Ale will like release my contact in the post or social media, but we'll see. And yeah, that's it. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. So goodbye, everyone, and thank you again. Bye.